G'day Pav, how you going?
Good, Matty. How are you, mate?
Good, thanks mate. Thanks for joining us today. Obviously I had the pleasure of debuting on your 200th game, and now we're on the eve of your 250th and my 50th. Who would have thought?
Yeah, that's right.
I'm just going to ask you a few questions on Docker TV today. Happy for me to go ahead with that?
I haven't really seen too many, but yeah, go ahead, mate. I'm sure we'll be fine.
There's a few tough ones here, so we'll see how we go.
No worries.
How were you perceived when you first got to the club?
Yeah, it's a difficult question. I guess as a high draft pick in the '99 national draft, I guess there was a perception that I'd come in and have an impact straight away. I played most of my junior football at centre-half forward back in the SANFL, so I guess I was perceived as a strong marking, long kicking centre-half forward who was probably a bit underdone in terms of being physically ready to play AFL football. And that was certainly the case given the fact that I passed out on my very first training session because I was literally a bit underdone on my 6 1K time trial. So yeah, not surprising that occurred given that the perception was probably there at the first place.
And what was your perception of me when I first got to the club back in '09?
Well, probably initially it was that you're a Claremont show pony. No, I don't mean that whatsoever. The perception was certainly someone who worked really hard, was highly intelligent, and would give their all for the team, being a captain of the under-18 team and someone who showed great leadership. So it's no surprise that over your 50 games so far that you've been able to show that as well.
The day I got drafted, I had a call from an unknown number. I decided to answer it, and it was your voice on the end of it. At first I wasn't too sure if it was actually you, but it was. And that had a profound effect on me straight away. How long have you been doing that call for?
Oh, look, even probably before I was captain, I've certainly found it worthwhile to give the guys who got drafted, whether it was the senior draft or the rookie draft, just to welcome them to the club. So maybe, I don't know, 6, 7 years now that I've been sort of trying to do that. I do remember that. I think from memory you didn't have a message bank, so I tried a couple of times, and you obviously weren't that keen to receive a call from someone that you hadn't known. And I think when I first spoke to you, you were in shock. So it was a while ago now, but yeah, certainly try to do that to most of the guys that get drafted.
Over your 250 games, who do you think has been your hardest opponent?
I get asked this question quite a bit, and it's not easy given the fact that I played in sort of 3 areas of the ground: defence, midfield and forward. As a defender, I sort of played there quite some time ago, and it was against guys like Warren Treadray, Jonathan Brown, David Neitz, Alistair Lynch, and through that era, those guys in the early 2000s obviously very, very talented and good players, so they were challenging in that role. In the midfield, I played on James Hird a couple of times, and I've been tagged by various players over the journey, so that's been a challenge in itself. And I guess down forward, some of the key backs that I've played on, Matthew Scarlett, Ben Rutten, Darren Glass, come to mind immediately, and have been sort of very good for a long time as well. So a variety of players there, but yeah, something that I've enjoyed by virtue of those positions I've played in.
Who's been the toughest player you've seen in terms of how they attack the football?
Yeah, I think Glenn Archer and Brett Kirk are probably the two that stand out. We've got a couple at our club who really go at the ball extremely hard, including yourself and Nick Lower, but Glenn Archer was probably finishing his career as I was beginning it, and to see him go about going back with the flight of the ball, Brett Kirk with his in and under sort of nature, those two particular players have had so much respect by their deeds on the field, so those two stand out.
Who's the most naturally gifted player do you think you've seen?
Now, yeah, this is a tough one because there's plenty that come through the door at Fremantle, and obviously so many out there in the AFL. I mean, at our club, I'll probably just talk about Aaron Sandlands and Stephen Hill, probably both at the other certain ends of the spectrum. Stephen Hill, in his ability to move sideways at speed, not too dissimilar to someone like Chris Judd with his speed and ability to get out of trouble. But Aaron, for someone who's 7 foot and 120 kilograms, to get around the oval like he does, I think is extreme talent. Yes, there's been a huge amount of hard work that's assisted that ability to do so, but there has to be a fair bit of innate talent to be able to get around the ground at that sort of size.
Through my first few years here, I've noticed that you're very mentally strong. Do you believe that you have a mental edge, or do you believe what sets you apart mentally?
Yeah, I think, you know, we talk so much about physical attributes and aspects of the game, but the mental side of it is as important. And I mentioned before, a lot of people have come through the footy club with extreme talent, and you know, I strongly believe in the notion that players need to be both physically have the physical components and competencies to be able to do so, but the mental aspect of the game, dealing with external pressure, dealing with, you know, the roller coaster ride that is AFL footy, blocking out injuries. There's a huge amount of mental aspects. You know, at the moment we're sort of starting to, the entire team is starting to do some mental imagery and some visualisation, and it's something that I have probably done for quite some time. So that aspect of the game is starting to really come on in leaps and bounds, and it does assist players in their game for sure.
Is there any advice that you received as a kid that sort of stuck with you today?
Probably, you know, just make the most of your opportunities. I remember the day I got drafted, and I must admit there was a tinge of sadness leaving Adelaide and all my family and friends, but I remember Dad sort of sitting there saying, look, every other person in this room or in our house at the time would love your opportunity, so, you know, grasp it and take it. And the other thing that Dad's always said is that you know, failure cannot cope with perseverance. If you keep having a crack and you keep sort of banging your head against the brick wall, so to speak, at some stage you'll get through that. So keep persevering, and, you know, good things do come to those that wait. I
often call you the busiest man in Australia because you're doing your MBA, you've already done your sports science degree, you're on the laws committee, you're a club captain, you basically run the AFLPA, among other things. Do you think that busy lifestyle helps your football? Having a balance?
Yeah, look, I think it does. For me anyway, you know, there's different sets of rules for different people, but for my situation, the busier I am outside of the game, I think that really compartmentalises my life, and I'm able to really focus in 100% when I come into the football club about what it is I need to do, and have that fierce desire and mental edge when I come into the club. Whereas when I step out of it, I have some components of my life where I'm able to really step away from footy, learn about some other things which I've been able to do. You know, part-time studying at uni throughout my whole career, now doing the MBA as you mentioned, as well as some things in business, and, you know, you mentioned the PA and other things. So it has given me. I must admit, every now and then it's a bit of a hindrance because you are doing so much, and it can take a bit of a toll. So you need to be able to sit back and smell the roses, so to speak, every now and then. But from my perspective, more often than not, it is important for me to manage that balanced lifestyle.
You play the guitar a little bit of musical ability about you?
No, there's not. I'm a bit like, I've said this a couple of times before, I'm a bit like Ryan Crowley on the dance floor, in that I try really, really hard, but I've just got no talent whatsoever.
That's very true. I can back that up. That's very true.
So, yeah, I mean, I love having a sing-along, and I've tried to learn the guitar a couple of times, but I haven't really taken to it as well as someone like Luke McFarlane.
Yeah, well, he's a gun. As we know, you're an All-Australian defender, midfield, forward, and even on the bench. Is the next step going to be All-Australian coach for Matthew Pavlich? Is that a goal?
It's not a goal. It's a good question. It's certainly not a goal to be All-Australian coach. I've said many times that I've entered this industry as a 17-year-old straight out of school, and it's all I've known for the last 11 and a half years. And if I play out the end of my contract, it will be all I know for the best part of 15 years. So for me, initially, I believe anyway, that I need to step out of the game. I need to get away and try something else. I love the game of footy, and I have a real passion for it. So, you know, I can't say I'd never get back involved at some level and in some capacity, but certainly initially, I think it's going to be better for me to challenge myself in another world for a little period. If I feel too scared, I'll come back to it.
Which you could do very easily. When did you know you wanted to be captain, and also when did you think you were ready to be captain?
The first part of the question is really hard to answer. When do I know that I wanted to be captain? I think growing up, I sort of had this sort of a feeling that I did have some leadership skills, and it's that age-old question, isn't it? You know, are leaders born or made? And I think there's enough evidence now to suggest that leaders are certainly made by the environments they're involved with as they grow up, and the experiences they have both as young men and certainly as adults. And I think that, coupled with a bit of an innate sort of feeling or drive to lead people, has assisted me along the way to sort of, I guess, acknowledge that, yeah, there is an element of that in me. It probably wasn't until you know, maybe 2004, 2005 that it was on my radar. We obviously had Matty de Boer, who was a terrific captain and player of this footy club, who held that position for some time, but he needed some assistance in his role. So I guess there was always an element of that whilst he was finishing his career, that he needed some other assistance. And I guess that's when I first started to think about, yeah, maybe there is something in this captaincy.
What do you believe is the best thing going on in the AFL right now? What's the best thing about football? Sort of broad question.
Yeah, it is. The best thing about football is that I think it encompasses so many people, in that, you know, we have 100 odd staff at our football club, plus all the players and support staff. So you times that by 17 at an AFL level, and then you've got AFL House, the AFL Players Association, all the people that are involved at waffle level and the grassroots. Now that's a huge amount of people to be involved in one industry, and it's a sport, it's a game. You know, I think that's, you know, at its base level, it's still fun and it is still a game. So when you think about that, it's kind of cool to be involved in an industry that has an elite level, but a grassroots level that's really closely interrelated and interconnected.
What would you say to Halves, Pav, if he said to you he wanted to start you as a sub? What would you say to him?
I'd say, I'd ask him what the strategy was first.
Yeah.
Try to be diplomatic about it.
Yep.
No, look, I mean, I think there's merit in it. You know, we saw Roger Hayden come back into the team last week and you know, have impact when he first came on. It does. You are sitting around for a long time, and I'd be itching to get out there. But look, if that's the way of the world for Matthew Pavlich in football, then we'd look at it. But I'd certainly ask why the strategy.
Just for mine, there's no merit in it, and we want you out there from the start.
Thanks, mate. I'm glad you cleared that up.
If there was no such thing as AFL football, Pav, where would you be and what would you be doing?
I'd probably still be in Adelaide.
Yeah.
I think I would have gone to uni and done a sports science type of degree. Who knows where that would have taken me? I mean, I might be a school teacher. Who knows?
Do you think we would have still met at some point?
No.
Probably not.
No, probably not.
Oh, well, lucky football came about.
Yeah, that's right. Well, that is the great thing about football, is that you do meet so many fantastic people who come from different backgrounds, who have different ideals when they first arrive at the club, and you're able to meet some fascinating people that, let's be honest, without footy, you wouldn't be able to do that.
Is there anyone playing for Fremantle still that was there at your very first game?
Well, Anthony Grover was on the list. I don't think he played that particular game. I'd have to check that. But I don't think there's anyone else on the list. No, it says I'm old, doesn't it?
No, not at all, mate. Well, that's all I got for you, mate. Thanks for joining us on Docker TV today.
Thanks, Matty.
All the
Good
best
luck
for
in your
Saturday.
50th.
Yeah, all
Thanks,
the best.
mate.
Cheers.